Fine. So now we are starting with the behavioral techniques. We have done the methods of treatment of behavior therapy. Now, new topic is there. What are the behavioral techniques which we employ, which we apply while solving any kind of psychological problem or distress? So let us start with the first one, negative reinforcement. When we talk about behavioral techniques, the first one is what? Negative reinforcement. This term we have already done. We have studied about this term in 11th class. Negative reinforcement means, an example could be given to understand. One learns to put on woolen clothes, burn firewood, or use electric heaters to avoid the unpleasant cold weather, right? So in negative reinforcement, what is happening? We are taking precautions beforehand. Why? Because we don't want to experience or we don't want to encounter the negative reinforcement. So in this case, in this example, we are putting on woolen clothes, or we are burning firewood, or we are turning on our electric heaters. So these are certain precautions which we are taking just to avoid what? The unpleasant cold weather, because that cold weather is troubling us somewhere. We try to avoid it, we try to escape it by doing certain activities or by taking certain precautions, right? So this is known as negative reinforcement. Now, second kind of behavioral technique is aversive conditioning. Aversive, what is this term means? If we talk literally, aversive means the thing which we dislike, or you can say disliking for something. So just write it, aversive, a dislike. In this technique, what is happening? How do we control certain behavior? It refers to repeated association of undesired response with an aversive consequence. See, two terms are there. Aversive conditioning में क्या हो रहा है? We are repeatedly associating two things. One is undesired response, or we are associating this response with what? With an aversive consequence. Let's take an example. Alcoholic is given a mild electric shock and asked to smell the alcohol, right? Two things are there. Just pay attention. I'll make you understand. In this, what is happening? An alcoholic, a person who is in a habit of taking alcohol too much, he is given a mild electric shock. Electric shock which is not endangering or which is not harming the person physically very much. Just a mild electric shock is given, and then he asked to smell the alcohol. Immediately, association is between the two things. You can associate the thing, which type of thing it is related to classical conditioning somehow. Yes. So alcoholic, the person is given a mild electric shock, and then he asked to smell the alcohol, whether it is in the glass, whether it is in the bottle. So he just asked to pick up that thing and smell. Fine. With repeated pairings, the smell of alcohol is aversive, as the pain of the shock is associated with it, and the person will give up alcohol. Now you got the thing. Suppose you want to treat this abnormal function or habit of someone. If you want to treat an alcoholic patient, what we are doing in aversive conditioning, we are pairing two things, right? We are pairing what? We are pairing the undesired response with an aversive consequence. So undesired response हुआ mild electric shock. Aversive consequence क्या हुआ? To smell that alcohol. So whenever the person is given a shock, then what he will associate with it? He will associate with it a smell of alcohol. तो क्या होगा? जैसे ही craving हुआ अंदर से to intake that alcohol, what he will remember? The pain caused due to electric shock. So धीरे धीरे, gradually, slowly and slowly, he will leave that habit altogether. Straight away, he will not keep on consuming the alcohol now. So this is a kind of technique in which two things are there. Undesired response is paired with aversive consequence. So what is happening now? The smell of alcohol is aversive, and as the pain of shock is associated with it, the person will give alcohol completely. If an adaptive behavior occurs rarely, positive reinforcement is given to increase the deficit. We have talked about the negative reinforcement. We have also discussed aversive conditioning. Now what comes, the third thing is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement हम कब दे रहे हैं? Whenever we want to increase the deficit or when we want to increase the adaptive behavior frequently. For example, very simple example in positive reinforcement, if a child does not do homework regularly, right? So positive reinforcement may be used by the child's mother by preparing the child's favorite dish whenever she or he does homework at the appointed time. So positive reinforcement is given in the form of favorite dish of the child. So he is completing his homework in the hope that I'll be getting my favorite food today. So this is positive reinforcement, that we are increasing the deficit, or we are increasing the adaptive behavior, which happened very rarely. But after giving positive reinforcement, the adaptive or the normal behavior occurs very frequently, or sometimes it becomes a part of the personality. Fine. Another thing, token economy is there. You can see the word. What happens in this? It's very easy. You all must be knowing. Persons with generally behavioral problems. Token economy किस चीज को treat करता है? Behavioral problems को generally. So persons with behavioral problems can be given a token as a reward every time a wanted behavior occurs. Fine. Then what happens? The tokens are collected and then exchanged for a reward, such as an outing for the patient or a treat for the child. So token economy में क्या हो रहा है? Suppose a child is finishing his or her dinner completely. So we are giving one token. So on a daily basis, the child is getting token. Fine. So he collects all those tokens, and at the end of the week, he is having 7 tokens. So for that 7 token, he can get anything which he wants. Certain things are set up. Suppose 7 tokens could be exchanged for a movie ticket. Suppose it could be exchanged with a food coupon, right? So token economy, certain rewards, it could be monetary also, it could be non-monetary also. So token economy. Now next comes differential reinforcement. This is not highlighted in the book, but please underline, a very important method as well. Page number 98, first column, second paragraph. You all can see the word differential reinforcement. So what is happening in this? Unwanted behavior can be reduced and wanted behavior can be increased simultaneously through differential reinforcement. Positive reinforcement for the wanted behavior and negative reinforcement for the unwanted behavior attempted together may be one such method. So differential reinforcement, how you going to remember? Two different things are there. Positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement, we want to increase an adaptive behavior, right? And negative reinforcement, we want to reduce or decrease the unwanted behavior. And what is the key feature? That these two things are happening simultaneously at the same time. So a different method, differential reinforcement, in which positive reinforcement for the wanted behavior and negative reinforcement for the unwanted behavior attempted together at the same time. It could also be used as a method to treat certain problems or disorders. Now, the other method is to positively reinforce the wanted behavior. Obviously, we want to reinforce the positive one only and ignore the unwanted behavior. It is a method given just below the differential reinforcement. It is not given in black and bold letters, but still you have to pay attention to it. What this method is saying, children, this method is saying that we can positively reinforce the wanted behavior and ignore the unwanted behavior, right? We are not reducing in this the unwanted behavior. We are completely ignoring the unwanted behavior. Now, this method is treated, is termed as less painful and equally effective. They are saying that whenever we are positively reinforcing the wanted behavior and ignoring the unwanted behavior, so this method is also equally effective and less painful. In this, we are not getting any pain, any physical distress, right? And then also we are getting rid out of the unwanted habits. To make this method explain, they have given a very easy and interesting example. We all see such type of children in our surroundings. Let us consider the case of a girl who sulks and cries when she is not taken to the cinema when she asks, right? This is the condition. A child is there, a girl is there, who always keep on complaining. है ना? Sulking means हमेशा रोते रहती है, हमेशा चिल्लाती रहती है. For what? That she want to go for cinema. So whenever she asks for this thing, she always do in a very sulking manner, always cries. So parent is instructed to take her to the cinema if she does not cry and sulk, but not to take her if she does. Getting? If the child, the girl is saying that I want to go cinema in a very humble, polite, and a very silent tone, in a very silent and mannerful way, then their parents are supposed to take the child to the cinema. This is the instruction given to them. And if she started, crying and sulking that I want to go, she starts throwing temper tantrums, then the parents are instructed not to take her to the cinema. So gradually, what association is forming, the girl start noticing that whenever I ask in a very good tone, in a very acceptable manner, my parents take me to the cinema. And whenever I, start sulking or crying or complaining, they ignore me. Ignoring is a very important feature of this method. Whenever the child is doing such kind of behavior, the parents are totally ignoring. That means they are not paying attention. Ignoring mein kya ho raha hai? You are not even answering the question, right? If the child is shouting, screaming, sulking, crying, even the parents are not looking at her. So the child started thinking that nobody is paying attention. There is a time limit. Kitne time tak roega? Right? So after a certain time, the child also stop crying and then, start wondering what happened. They are not paying attention even. They are not looking at me. They are busy with their work. So it comes gradually. Lot of patience is required, right? On both the sides. The mother also and father also. Fine. ऐसा नहीं कि mother is pampering and the father is following the instructions. Both have to be very neutral. So in this case, we are reinforcing the positive behavior and we are ignoring the unwanted behavior. So what will happen? Gradually, slowly, this habit will get out of that, get out of child's personality. Fine. Now next comes, these are the certain techniques which are still going. Next comes systematic desensitization. This is a very popular technique given by Wolf, the name of the psychologist. Just underline, this is a very popular technique to treat phobias or irrational fears. Generally, this technique is used to treat all kind of irrational fears or phobias and given by psychologist Wolf. What happens into this technique, very interesting technique, the client is interviewed to elicit fear-provoking situations. First of all, what is happening in this technique? The client is interviewed by the therapist. Therapist asked certain questions and the therapist want to know that what are the fear-producing or fear-provoking situations, first of all. Together with the client, the therapist hierarchy of anxiety provoking stimuli, with the least anxiety provoking stimuli at the bottom of the hierarchy. Now, what is happening after the interview is done? What the therapist is preparing with the help of the client? A hierarchy of anxiety provoking situation. सबसे bottom, सबसे नीचे क्या रखते हैं? Least anxiety producing situation. Then gradually, slowly and slowly, as you are going up in the hierarchy, the intensity of the anxiety is increasing. Suppose a person is having phobia of a cockroach, fine. So therapists keep the least anxiety producing situation. Suppose if you are, seeing a cockroach from a very good distance. So this is the least anxiety. Suppose I am standing on the terrace and I am seeing the cockroach at the end of my terrace, then it is least anxiety provoking that yes, I am having fear of it. I do not like it. The presence of cockroach is causing a little bit anxiety into my mind. This is the least anxiety provoking situation. Then gradually उसके बाद क्या हो रहा है? His therapist is asking a question कि suppose that cockroach is coming towards you and the distance has decreased to a level. The patient, the client will say, yes, now I am, feeling lot anxious. अब थोड़ा मेरा anxiety बढ़ गया है कि कहीं मेरे ऊपर ही नहीं आ जाए. Fine. So this will be on the second step. धीरे धीरे इस तरह से क्वेश्चंस होते जाते हैं, बढ़ते जाते हैं कि एकदम से आपके पास में आके it just get onto your shoes. What will you do? The patient will say, I'll just start screaming. I will just start throwing off my leg, my shoes, everything. I just start. So this is what धीरे धीरे gradually the anxiety is increasing and therapist is suggesting certain situation. He's asking certain questions and based upon it, he is maintaining a hierarchy. And keep this in mind that anxiety is increasing into hierarchy. That's why we have used the word hierarchy. Fine. So therapist now relaxes the client and asks the client to think about the least anxiety provoking situation. Now what is happening, children? Same time the client is feeling anxiety by imagining the situation. Suppose the cockroach is there on his clothes. So he is thinking about the situation, imagining obviously, and lot of anxiety is there. He starts sweating, right? And he starts becoming so much anxious. On the same time, the therapist will ask him to relax down. Two things are opposite, anxiety and relaxation. So therapist relaxes the client and then asks the client to think about the least anxiety provoking situation again. The client is asked to stop thinking of the fearful situation if the slightest tension is felt. If client is started feeling the tension, so the therapist will ask him to stop thinking, stop imagining of the fearful situation. Over sessions, what will happen? The client is able to now imagine more severe fear-provoking situation while maintaining the relaxation. Now the intensity of anxiety bearing increases, in the case of client, now he is imagining, he is answering, he is thinking about that situation, and at the same time, he is also relaxing. Now he is not feeling too much fear, too much anxiety, and now he is not, feeling distressed. So he is also maintaining the relaxation. The client gets systematically desensitized to the fear. Now one stage, one time, at a point of time, the client says that now I can imagine the most anxiety producing situation also, and at the same time I'm able to keep myself relaxed and calm. So this is the successful point at which the client is able to feel, able to imagine the anxiety producing situation also, and at the same time he is also relaxed. Now these things now later on asked by the therapist to do in real life situation also. Fine. In real life situation, he is also asked, whenever you see a cockroach, please do not panic, do not start screaming, shouting. Just try to relax yourself by giving positive instructions or by imagining. So this is systematic desensitization. Ma'am, please, we can stop with the recording.